We now come to an important chapter in DAP 2020, which is the procedure for acquisition of systems which are designed and developed by DRDO, oblique by DPSUs, oblique by OFB. There have been a large number of systems that have been developed by them. As far as the production goes, while the DPSUs and OFBs do have agencies which can productionize a particular designed equipment, DRDO largely does not have it and has to be based on a production agency to bring its designed prototype into production. In DAP 2020, a design cum production partner has been introduced, wherein an entity, a private entity, is part of the design and development phase and therefore is capable of absorbing the technology easily when it gets down to producing it. We shall have a look at it in subsequent during these sessions. This chapter I will deal in two sessions. In session 1, which is the present one, I will deal with the process up to the design and development. The procedure for the system design and developed is largely outlined for the DRDO projects. However, there are variations for the DPSUs and the OFBs which are included in the chapter. Therefore, it encompasses all the public agencies that are there in defense production. It involves the development of the system right through from the inception, the induction into the service, as well as the complete life cycle support for the life of the product in the services concerned. A spiral development model can be followed. This is primarily because in one go, in complex technologies, it may not be able to meet the complete requirement of the service headquarters. So based on a decision taken, which is approved, the product may be developed in stages with a limited series production in successive stages depending on the minimum order quantity. So we go in for stage 1 with the limited series production, then upgrade the QR to a higher level, intermediate level. So therefore, the next limited series production would be at the intermediate level of technology and then go in for a higher level. Therefore, the complete minimum order quantity will be divided into the number of stages in which the limited series production, and that is known as the spiral development model as you upgrade your quality requirements. Now, it's the responsibility of the service headquarters to identify the equipment oblique the platform that could be undertaken for design and development. It could be by the DRDO, it could be by the DPSUs or the OFBs. Now, please keep in mind that DRDO does have its own inherent development cycle also, but that is not covered under this chapter. They have their own policies subject to that. Now, normally what used to happen is that the DRDO would nominate a production agencies after the design and development was complete. This production agency used to be responsible for the producing, for the commercial production of that particular product, which had passed the design and development stage. However, since that production agency was not part of the design and development, absorption of technology became a problem, and therefore the thing would actually go into a bind in which possibly the product was not successful, whereas the prototype had been successful. Therefore, in this present chapter, we would have a development cum production partner, preferably right from the inception stage. So this partner, and there could be more than one, would be part of the complete design and development. Please keep in mind, DRDO largely does not produce its own products. In this kind of a fashion, we have had the ATAGs, in which private companies are involved along with the DRDO, and we also have the Dhanush gun in which the OFB is involved with the DRDO. Now, in case of the DPSUs and the OFB, the entire design and development and the production could be undertaken by themselves because the DPSUs and the OFBs have their own production agencies available. However, there are provisions by which they can nominate a production agency from the Indian industry And the requirement is there even for the DRDO, in which the design come development model had not been followed with a partner. And that also a production agency could be nominated at a later stage. Keep in mind there are problems in that of adoption of technology. Now, procurement of the minimum order quantity under this procedure will be mandatory under the category of Buy Indian IDDM, indigenously designed, developed, manufactured. Therefore, minimum 50% of indigenous content is required for this kind of a production. We shall now have a look at the flow chart for the complete procedure of the design and development by DRDO, DPSUs or OFBs. The first step in this is the feasibility study. The feasibility study is jointly undertaken by the development agency concerned as well as the service headquarters. And this is the initial step towards studying the necessity. Why is this project required? Why is it required only for DRDO, DPSUs, OFBs, and why can't it be given directly to the private industry? What is the available technologies available in the country and as well as from internationally, and whether this technology is feasible to be produced in the country and absorbed in the weapon system that we are talking about? And what are the means to include such technologies, such systems into the complete overall system that is being planned for? Now, the feasibility study provides most of the inputs for framing the statement of case for the service headquarters to field the case for acceptance of necessity. It recommends the number of development cum production partners, DcPPs. This would be based on what is the quantity required. Is the quantity sufficient to have a number of development cum production partners in terms of the economies of scale? Complexity of the technology, whether more DcPPs are required for the purposes of the varied technology involved and the inability of just one to be able to produce it. Risk mitigation is an important factor. You don't want to land up in a situation where the DcPP that you have chosen, a single one, cannot be able to produce, put the prototype into productionization. And then the entire case after so many years would fail. And what is the expertise available within the industry to be able to absorb and produce this kind of a system with high technology? What is the minimum order quantity that would be there for the particular product? And therefore, is the product financially viable for the purposes of production? It has to be financially viable, otherwise you land up the private industry not finding it economical to be able to put up a production line for this kind of a system, and you may have to go in-house to OFB and DPSUs. What are the development timelines involved, and what are the terms of reference at each development timelines or the milestones that are required to be reached? The spiral development is an important aspect we spoke about in the last slide. What is the spiral development? Can you be able to produce the technology in one go, or you need a number of stages and therefore go in for limited series production in each one of the stages, upgrading the PSQR as you go along? The effort will always be there to have more than one development cum production partners. You have to risk mitigate it. However, if there is only one, for whatever reasons there may be, the DRDO has to justify to the UN according authority. And remember this, the DcPP as per definition of the Indian vendor. As the procurement takes place as by Indian IDDM. For this, it has to be an Indian vendor, that is the control of the company has to be in Indian hands, and the majority equity, that is more than 50%, has to be in Indian hands. The next step in the flow is the preparation of the statement of case and fielding the statement of case for the UN according authority. The PSQR or the provisional SQR form part of the statement of case which is fielded. The statement of case needs inputs on costs, the indigenous content, the timelines, all given by the design agency. The PSQR and the methodology to quantify each one of the parameters and verify each one of the parameters are listed in the statement of case as part of the trial methodology. The statement of case is initiated by the SHQ. However, it is always in consultation with the development agency, be it the DRDO, the DPSUs, oblique the OFBs. And this statement of case, the draft statement of case, is circulated to all stakeholders for comments. The statement of case is always based on the feasibility study. Major inputs are taken in from that. Though there would be no requirement of carrying out scaling or quantity vetting as would be in a normal case, because in this case the feasibility study has already laid down the minimum order quantity. The statement of case therefore highlights the recommended indigenous content, the costs involved, the minimum order quantity, the requirement of spiral development, and if there is a recommendation for spiral development, then what is the minimum order quantity for each one of the stages for limited series production. Also, the four close criteria is laid down, and this core close criteria is normally based on the issue that the prototype is not developed within the agreed timelines that are legislated in the statement of case. Should that happen and a decision taken towards foreclosure, the SHQ therefore can acquire using any other procedure in the DAP 2020 oblique any other agency after taking approval from the AON according authority. And therefore, it does not have to be stuck or restricted to the development of this particular weapon system from the multi-agencies of the design and development only. Capability is maintained. It also lays down the estimate development timelines for the prototype, the development cost of the project, and the production cost of orders. And if there are multiple development cum production partners, then the share of the minimum order quantity between the production partners will be legislated, and that is for successful development cum production partners. The provisional SQR, service quality requirement. Now it is provisional in the sense that this is a development PSQR. It will change and it is not essential to be able to achieve all parameters of it. Whatever has been achieved will be assessed by the SHQ and ascertain whether it is acceptable in the form, the prototype acceptable as to what it has been able to achieve. Now this PSQR could be a multi-stage one. In case of the spiral development, there will have to be a multi-stage one, legislating what is the technology upgradation required at each one of the stages, or it could be a single PSQR. This PSQR is formulated by the service headquarters in consultation with the development agencies, that is the DRDO, DPSUs, and the OFB. It has essential parameters as well as desirable parameters. The essential parameters are those which are essential for the prototype to achieve before the SHQ can accept it. Desirable ones are what are desired to be achieved, but it does not debar the prototype from being not accepted. We have had cases where essential parameters were not met, but within the technology concerned, we went in for limited series production and then looked at timelines and further development of the prototype for a further escalation to another limited series production. Trial methodology to quantify each one of the parameters and verify each one of the parameters is included and very much part of it. The next step is taking the AON for the design and development. Now, after incorporating all the comments that come from the stakeholders concerned, the case is fielded by the SHQ in the Services Procurement Board, at the Defense Procurement Board, or the Defense Acquisition Council, the apex body, depending on the financial approval required and the AON according authority. Now, even if it is a single design cum production partner or a production agency, or there is a requirement of design and development by DPSUs, OFBs without any design cum production partner, it is not considered as a single vendor case, and therefore the case can go on. However, the DRDO oblique the DPSUs of the OFB has to justify the same to the AON according authority. Now, there could be cases where the quantities are limited. It's not financially viable to go in for a private industry partner, and therefore At this case, the production can be by the DRDO, the DPSUs, or the OFB. However, prior approval for this has to be taken. The validity of the AON is 6 months from the approval of the SQR from the Services Equipment Policy Committee. And the AON, as I brought out, is always by Indian IDDM with 50% indigenous content. The design and development is primarily undertaken by the DRDO, the DPSUs / OFBs for the respective products as per the internal procedure. However, they are monitoring teams. Also, there are certain reviews that are carried out. Let's have a look at it. Now, firstly, the design cum production partner has to be nominated in advance, preferably as per the number that has been approved by the AON according authority, which was based on the feasibility study. And again, to re-emphasize, the development cum production partner is an Indian vendor. Basically, primarily is that he's incorporated into the complete design phase so that he does not have problems in absorption of technology when it comes to the stage of being a production agency concerned. Now, the project goes through the detailed design review and the critical design review. Primarily, the detailed design review is basically assessing the suitability and the adequacy of the engineering design. And basically, this design is presented and all agencies, relevant agencies, provide the feedback towards the complete designing process that may be due. There would be stages in which the design would go through and the review committees would look at it. When you come to the critical design review, it is primarily by a multidisciplinary independent technical assessment is carried out by a team in which they assess whether the development of the product or the prototype has been sufficiently in a particular stage to enable it to get to the next stage of the designing. Now, for the review and monitoring of the design and development of the prototype, the two types of committees that are put up. The first, the Joint Project Monitoring Team with the JPMT. This is constituted by the DRDO, / the DPSU, / the OFB as concerned their relevant products, and it meets quarterly or as required. Now, there's co-chairing in this case. It is either by a brigadier or a major general equivalent officer from the SHQ concerned, and from the DRDO / the DPSU is the project director, deputy director of the nodal lab of the DRDO / the general manager level of the DPSUs / the OFB. Also, it would have various representatives. The representative would be from the design agency, the MOD acquisition, the DGQA, maintenance agency, and also experts in the relevant field could be incorporated into JPMT, and this could be relevant also to particular phases only. The second team is a subset of the first, the JPMT. This is the project management team. It is constituted by the service headquarters. And basically, it's meant to provide an interface between the JPMT and the service headquarters. It is a subset of the JPMT itself. It's based on the cost and the complexity of the project. At times, the PMT is not nominated for small projects. It is co-located with the project, and it comprises of the officer representative of the concerned user directorate of the SHQ and the QA specialist. Other agencies also may be nominated depending on as required basis. It assists in the availability of the resources to the complete review, monitoring and development team that is there. And wherever a complex issue comes out, it acts as the interface and seeks direction from the SHQ and passes it on to the JPMT. It gives a periodic update to the SHQ also on the progress of the project that is going on. Thereafter, there is a apex level review for all AON accorded projects. Now, this is apex level review is carried out by the apex board for the DRDO project and what is known as a biennial review and monitoring committee BRMC for the DPSUs and the OFB. The apex board has the secretary DRDO or the CCR&D available as the chairman of it, whereas the BRMC, that is Biannual Review Monitoring Committee of the DPSUs and the OFB, has the Secretary DP, Defense Production himself, chairing the committee. Other members would be the Vice Chief Equivalent, the CISC, the Secretary Defense Finance, the DG Acquisition, the QA reps, and other essential members that would be there. It would also have representative of the DPSU and OFBs also, as well as the DRDO itself, depending on which board it is. The JPMT renders the progress report, and the AP/the BRMC may recommend a way forward or a foreclosure for the SHQ to take up with the UN authority, depending on the recommendations concerned of the project. And a 6-monthly update of the project is given by the DRDO, the DPSU's OFBs, to the Defense Procurement Board, basically to monitor it. Therefore, the projects are closely monitored and the progress is known by all concerned. In case it is failing, they can take a decision for foreclosing it rather than letting the service headquarters be without the capability of a particular weapon system. In session 2 of the chapter, that is the next session, I will look at the realization of prototype, the trials and the award of contract to the production agency, the design production partner. We have had a look in this session on the issue of the complete process up to the design and development. It was great being with you. Till next session. Thank you.